Today's message, I want to talk to you about make the first move. Turn to your neighbor, tell them, make the move. Make the first move. Well, while I was at Bible college, I graduated from high school in 1996. And then I went to Springfield, Missouri from Moravia, New York. And while I was at CBC, Central Bible College, I had the worst time talking to girls. I had a self-confidence issue, and it wasn't, self-confidence wasn't my strong suit. And so it was like, man, I never really could go out on dates or do things. I was a bit of a jock. I worked in the gym. I played basketball on the basketball team, and they give you a cushy job working in the gym. You would kind of have to sweep the floors once in a while. And then I was a bit of a nerd. And one day, while I was working in the gym, a girl came to me, and she's talking to me, and she tells me, and this is probably something that would only happen at Bible college, is Bible college problems. But she told me that God had told her that we were going to get married. And I said to her, well, that's great. When God tells me the same thing, I'll get back to you. I wasn't interested. So later on, fast forward a few years in my life, and I'm living there in Springfield, Missouri. I had come back after I graduated from Bible college. I worked in Brooklyn and worked at a place called Teen Challenge there, and came back up and worked at Lansing Residential Center as a youth division aide, and then moved back out to Springfield, Missouri to work on my master's degree in organizational leadership. And when I was there, I got a house. We rented this 5-bedroom apartment. It was really just a whole house. And my little sister moved in with me, and my brother came with me. And my little sister's roommate, her name was Crystal. Now, if anybody knows me, you know my wife's name is Crystal, and so there's a happy ending to this story. But it actually, what happened was I took this girl, Crystal, out on a date. And we come back to the house, and I had this ratty old couch. I had found it when you're just fresh, getting started. Any couch will do. And there were people throwing their couch away at Evangel University, and I was like, I'm going to get that out of the dumpster. I got that out, and I had, some of y'all have no idea what I'm about to say, but there were phone books. And the couch didn't have legs, except it had 2 legs, and so I used phone books to prop it up. So this is a great couch, though. Trust me, the best. So I get Crystal back to the house, and we're sitting on the couch, and we're watching a movie. And about an hour into the movie, Crystal turns to me and says, "Are we going to cuddle?" And it finally dawns on me that she wanted to kiss. So I was like, yeah, certainly. And when we're asked, as a married couple today, who made the first move, is somewhat questionable. Because I'm not sure that I made the first move in that instance. Most of us like it when somebody else makes the first move. We all have insecurities, we all have doubts, we all have desires, we have hopes, and it's all affirmed in us when somebody else makes the first move. So what has to happen is, young men, be the kind of man that's going to make the first move. Not just romantically, but in all social situations. Be proactive in every area of your life. And I want to say it like this, at Two Rivers Church, we are people that make the first move. Turn to your neighbor, tell them, I'm a first move person. We've built a beautiful church. We're continuing to beautify it. We're trying to make it a place that you can be proud of. But what many churches are doing is they're waiting for people to come through the doors of the church. They're waiting for other people to make the first move. And I think as people of God, we're the kind of people that need to make the first move. We don't need to wait for people to come to us. We need to go to them. We go to people where they are, and we serve them. We leave the building to go to people and meet their needs. We make the first move. Later today, I'm going to go to the funeral of a loved and respected man in our community. Nazar Logvis, it's the younger brother of Max and Ina. Max's younger brother, he passed away. He was under the age of 40, had a heart attack this past week, and he leaves behind 4 little girls and a beautiful wife. But he also leaves behind a legacy of making the first move. Nazar would share Jesus everywhere he went. He had this great smile, and he was inviting people always to come to church. He was always connecting with people. He was socially competent. Nazar would take the youth from the Ukrainian Pentecostal church and go out on Friday nights and witness downtown. He was always serving people. Nazar served Jesus by serving others. He would demonstrate in word and in deed the love of Christ. And I think it's important to do both. I've heard the phrase, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. And I think that's true, that we should, with our life, give a demonstration of the gospel, but it is, make no mistake, it is necessary to share the gospel with words. People can't know the gospel unless we share the gospel. And if you go to Nazar's funeral today, you're going to see a room full of people who are impacted by the life of a man who wanted to please Jesus. He didn't wait for them to come to him. He made the first move out of obedience to Jesus. So in Nazar's honor, I want to read a poem to you today by a missionary named C.T. Studd. C.T. Studd went to China at the turn of the century. At that time, China was a closed nation, and there was millions and hundreds of millions of people who didn't know Jesus. Today, there are hundreds of millions of people in China who know Christ. China is a communist nation where it's illegal to operate as Christians openly, but they function in house churches, and they throw pastors in prison. The pastor goes to prison, he just shares Jesus there. And they make the first move. And so this is a poem written by C.T. Studd titled Only One Life. It goes like this. 2 little lines I heard one day, traveling along life's busy way, bringing conviction to my heart, and from my mind would not depart. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one life, yes, only one. Soon will its fleeting hours be done. Then in that day, my Lord to me, and stand before his judgment seat. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one life, the still small voice gently pleads for a better choice, bidding me selfish aims to leave, into God's holy will to cleave. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one life, a few brief years, each with its burdens, hopes, and fears. Each with its days I must fulfill, living for self or in his will. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. When this bright world would tempt me sore, when Satan would a victory score, when self would seek to have its way, then help me, Lord, with joy to say, only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Give me, Father, a purpose deep, in joy or sorrow, thy word to keep. Faithful and true, whate'er the strife, pleasing thee in my daily life. Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done, everybody together, for Christ will last. Well, this is what we have to do. We have to be the people that make the first move. We have to reach out and serve others. And why do we do that? It says in 1 John chapter 4, verse 19, that we love because he first loved us. Jesus made the first move. Jesus, without hope of return, said, I love you enough that I'm going to take the first step. I'm going to make the first move in your life. He gave his life on the cross willingly out of love because love makes the first move. It doesn't expect anything in return. Love gives freely. It says, hey, I'm giving my life. And this is the example that Jesus gave. Jesus said, I came to serve and not to be served. I give my life as a ransom for many. As we follow Jesus, something powerful happens when you get your mind off yourself and you go out and you do good for somebody else. So my question today is, are you serving anyone beside you? Are you doing something for others outside of what your job requires? We already talked about it today, but coming up on January 12th, we're doing Serve Day. On Serve Day, we're going to show up, hundreds of us together, and we're going to go out into the community, and we're going to make a difference. And it's born off of this vision. There was a pastor who said, what would happen if around the world, globally, one day of the year, we just had hundreds of thousands of Christians and thousands of churches join together to serve in their community and make a difference? So that's what's happening. We're joining together with thousands of other churches all around America and all around the globe. And it's in my mind, it's this passion, it's this vision that I had in my heart for us as a church, that we would be a church that would be missed if we were no longer here. What does that mean? It means that there's people around us that are being blessed by us. And so on Serve Day, we're going to show up. We're going to roll into the park. There's a whole bunch of people that are going to hand out waters and bless people and staff the park. There's another one we're going to do a car wash. There's another one where you can just pick your serve project. In the past, we've done all kinds of different serve opportunities, and there's tons of different ideas for how to serve people. One of my favorite ones, my wife and I, we lost our firstborn son in NICU. He was born premature, and we were with him for 13 days. And at the end of that, we lost him. And so we'll go for our Serve Day project, we'll go over to the NICU and we buy gift cards. And we go in, we give all the families that are in NICU gift cards, and then we get gift cards for all the nurses. Because day in and day out, I said the 13 worst days of my life, some of the best and worst days of my life in NICU, and they're there every day. And so I just want them to know, hey, there's somebody that's praying for you. There's somebody that loves you. I'm so thankful for all that you do, and maybe no one's ever said thank you before, but we just want you to know that we're grateful and we're thankful for what you're doing, serving in our community, taking care of little ones that can't take care of themselves, even when mom and dad can't take care of them. So we do that. There's another Serve Day project. We go to the grocery store. We go to the laundromat, and we'll just pay for people's laundry and just say, hey, do a little something to let you know that God loves you. We'll go out to the bus station and buy people's bus passes. And one of the fun ones that we did, we bought a bunch of coffee gift cards at Dunkin' Donuts. Several $100s worth of gift cards. And I sat by the door and I would just give out gift cards as people are coming into Dunkin' Donuts and said, hey, here's a little coffee for free. Well, the first year we were doing that, one of the guys that came through the doors, he got that gift card. I started talking to him, invited him to church. He came to church. He started playing bass, gave his life to Jesus. Last service, he was sitting on the front row, and sometimes you'll see him standing up here on the stage singing. He helped us plant a church in Cortland several years ago because of serving on Serve Day. Come on, somebody. That's a big deal. Lives are changed. His whole destiny, his purpose was different. Now, we didn't do that because I'm like, hey, I'm here to do something in your life. I'm not trying to get something from somebody on Serve Day. I'm trying to get something for somebody. And I think that's one of the things that's so enjoyable. So it's really going to be fun when you sign up for Serve Day. We're going to go out and we're going to have a blast, and we're going to make a difference together on July 12th. But with our remaining time, I want to talk about serving and what does it look like to serve. So number one, serve in the waiting season. Serve in the waiting season. The waiting season in your life is not wasted time. It's a proving ground. Serving consistently and with excellence when there's no immediate reward visible is a test that God does in your life. When I was growing up, my parents were pastors, and then we lived in Groton. My dad became a chaplain, and we started attending Groton Assembly of God. My mom became like the children's worker there at Groton Assembly of God, and I would help her out in children's church. And eventually what happened was I took over the reins. I turned 18, and my mom had some other stuff that she needed to do in her schedule. And she's like, Will, why don't you start taking care of children's church? And I was like, holy smokes, I'm going to do children's church. I had no idea how to lead. I'd just been doing it and watching my mom do it. And so I started serving in children's church. And all I knew was, I don't know anything about any of this, but I just want to make it fun for the kids. So we're going to have a fun Sunday, and we're going to introduce these kids to Jesus. So that's what I would do. I got a car when I was 16, and I said to the Lord, with this car, I'm going to use it to honor you. That this car, every car that I ever have is going to be for your purposes. And over the years, I've given away many, many cars. I don't sell a car, I give it away. And I told God, if you give me a car, I'm going to use it to pick up every hitchhiker. This is back when there was hitchhikers, when people would try to get around the country that way, and nobody was scared of I guess maybe people were scared to get whatever bad things could happen with a hitchhiker. But I was like, God, I'm going to do it. And every time I see a hitchhiker, I pick up a hitchhiker, and I'll just tell, hey, man, this car, I dedicated to the Lord a long time ago, and I want you to know that I'm picking you up because I want you to know the love of Jesus. And that's what I would just pick people up that way. And every Sunday, I would use that car. I would go to this house where we had built a relationship with this family, and they didn't have vehicles, but I'd pick their kids up and bring them to church every Sunday, and just smelly, and it was this whole thing. But as a teenager, it was like, man, what a joy to serve people and to love people. And I never thought anything of it. I wasn't like, wow, I'm serving, and because I'm serving, it's going to open doors for me in the future. But God sees every single thing that we do. And preparation often happens in our life out of public view. And it requires faithfulness and sacrifice without knowing what the reward is going to be. So fast forward in my life, I'm married to Crystal, and we're living in Springfield, Missouri. I was selling cars. I'd been a juvenile officer. And there was a day that I felt like God was calling me into ministry. And so I said, God, yes, whatever you want me to do. God, if you'll let me be in the house of the Lord, I'll scrub toilets. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And my pastor calls me up, and he says, hey, Will, there's a part-time children's pastor position at the Calvary Temple location. And I was like, I'll pray about it, which was code for no, sir. And I talked to my wife, and she's like, well, at least it pays something, because I had quit my job. I'm like, I'm going to go into ministry, great faith. And in my mind, I was going to be a pastor, not a children's worker. I was like, I don't like kids. I don't know anything about kids. What am I going to do with these kids? So I called Pastor up because my wife said, remember how you said you'd be willing to scrub toilets? I was like, yeah, I was more willing to scrub toilets than I was to work in children's church. And so I called my pastor back up. I said, yes, Pastor, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So I go into children's church, and I'm like, I'm not really equipped for children's church. Like, I don't know how to do arts and crafts. It's not my thing. I see other children's pastors, they get the handprint in the clay mold, and that goes home. And I was like, never once in my career as a children's pastor did I ever do a handprint for parents. What we did was like, we're going to get a gym, and we're going to have the kids come in. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have fun. We're going to teach them about Jesus. We're going to go to the altars. We're going to pray. One of my rules in children's church was be strong. Because if you get hit in the face with a ball, there's no crying in our children's church. And what happened was God used that. That time that it was like I'm just serving and I'm just saying yes. God used that later on in my life to open a door for me to become a children's pastor that now leads to this moment right here today. That it was when I was doing things that were in the waiting season, where there wasn't like it was clear what God's purpose and his will and his direction was in my life. God used all of that later on in my life to propel me into my destiny. Isaiah chapter 58 verse 6 says it like this, "Is not this the kind of fasting I've chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and to break every yoke." In other words, I want you to be the kind of people that work for justice. I want you to be the kind of people that take care of the oppressed, the downtrodden. I want you to be the kind of people that are actively working to help people. Verse 7, it says, "Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them, and do not turn away from your own flesh and blood?" In other words, don't be greedy, don't be selfish. Use what you have to the benefits of others. And then in verse 8, it says this. What's the highlighted word there? Everybody together. "Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard." In other words, you gotta make the first move. If you'll take care of the poor, if you'll take care of those who are downtrodden, if you'll take care of justice. But too often, we're waiting for the light to break forth in our lives. We're waiting for healing and we're waiting for provision when we haven't made the first move. God says, if you'll do these things first, if you'll seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, if you'll make the first move, then I'm going to pour out blessing into your life. So when there's the coworker that has their car in the shop, you say, "Hey, let me swing by and pick you up. I can bring you to work this week. I know it's inconvenient. I know it's a little bit out of the way. I know you have to like reorient your schedule in the morning. We all have a routine. We all have sort of a priority around all the things that we need to do. But there's something that gets released. We have to serve when it doesn't seem like we're going to be promoted. No one's going to reward you for that. Maybe no one says thank you. But number 2, serve when it's small. Serve when it's small. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of David and Goliath. And if you go to 1 Samuel chapter 16 and 17, you see how David, at the age of 17, is anointed to be king over Israel. Samuel the prophet comes to the house and he takes oil and he pours it over David's head. I don't know how much oil, but it was anointing. So he's got oil running down all over him, and all his brothers are seeing him, his father's seeing him. And now if that's me, I'd probably be like, "Check it out, y'all. I'm the king. I'm a big deal. Brothers, recognize. Dad, I'm in charge around here now." But not David. David, after he's anointed king, his dad says, "David, go back out and tend the sheep." And where does David go? He goes back out to tend the sheep. And then the next thing you know, you see David's dad who says, "David, I want you to bring some food to your brothers who are on the front lines." David could have said, "Dad, I'm a big deal. A king doesn't bring food. I'm not an Uber driver. I'm not I'm not somebody that has to stoop so low as to carry a sandwich around. David could have been full of himself. That's too small. That's too little. But I think if David hadn't been willing to serve in this small area by taking his brother's lunches, he would have never met Goliath. And when he saw Goliath, God stirred something in his heart and propelled him into his destiny. And here we are today, still talking about David and Goliath. It's because David was willing to do something that was small. David was willing to get down and serve in areas that others might have felt were beneath them. And it's so interesting because David's purpose was hidden in what seemed insignificant. You have to be willing to do something small before God will trust you with something great. David was led to his destiny by delivering a sandwich. Sometimes we don't want to serve because it seems small or insignificant. But on the way to the big things that God has in store, he's going to test us with small things. So don't talk yourself out of going the extra mile, of serving your family, getting up early, taking care of the children, making sure everything's all right. Nobody may be saying thank you. It feels unnoticed, but God sees what you're doing. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says it like this: whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It's saying, hey, your boss at work, he's asking you to do something, and it's unpaid, and maybe you see there's a project that no one else touches. Paul is saying here in Colossians, do that work for the Lord, not for your boss. Don't do it because somebody else is watching. Do it because God is paying attention. Colossians 3, verse 24 says it like this: since you know that you're going to receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. Every single thing you do, God sees it. God knows how to pay you back for your investment in the kingdom. I want everybody to say this last part together. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. This is who we're serving. It shifts the dynamic. When you serve others, you're serving God. You're honoring him. You don't have to make things happen. You don't have to try to convince people to like you. You don't have to talk them into opening a door. You just keep being your best. You go the extra mile. Keep making the first move. Keep reaching out. And God is going to do the rest. So number 3, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to have Pastor Ryan come back. Is serve with a good attitude. How many of the ladies in here know your husband can say something and they could be right, but the way they say it is wrong, and it's just wrong? How many know that attitude matters? How the tone of voice, the way we say things. I'm a big guy. I can forget. I get a little gruff from time to time, and I can kind of bark, especially if I'm in pain or I've had a long day or if I get interrupted from the thing that I'm doing. And sometimes I don't transition my mind quick enough to say, oh, yes, honey, things are wonderful. And I can bark a little bit. And my wife, she's got a standard for her life. She's not going to take any type of voice other than the kind she likes. And she's going to hold me accountable to that kind of voice because it's unacceptable to her. And you know, I think it's the same way with God. God looks at our life, and I believe that serving with joy and a positive heart is crucial. We don't have to serve, we get to serve. We don't have to go to church, we get to go to church. Doing the right thing with a wrong attitude can block blessings in your life. Serving grudgingly or with bitterness, it can hinder the breakthroughs that faithful service can bring. Can you imagine you're working in the cafe and I made some coffee for you. Oh, I guess I got to make another pot. There's so many people here today. Can you believe it? Somebody was in my seat. Somebody parked in my parking spot. How dare they? Just a nasty attitude all the time, and you go to get the cup of coffee, and they're like, here, take it. Like, the coffee doesn't taste so good, does it? Something's not quite right. Serving with the wrong attitude, the wrong heart. So God wants us to serve with a good attitude. God values the heart's posture as much as the action itself. So serve with a smile. Do it with a good attitude. Sing in the band. When you're up on the stage, put a smile on your face. You might have been having a terrible, that's one of the most amazing things ever. Ryan has to come up here. He's got to sing. He might have had a miserable week. Ryan, you put a smile on that face. Boy, he's just, woo, we're praising the Lord today, everybody. Because he's serving. He's helping somebody else into the presence of the Lord. Nobody wants to see stanky face. Nobody says, hey, let me get up today and let's all go to the church and mourn together. We sing with joy. We get to do it. We're going to make the kids' rooms pop with fun. Even when the kids, they're not thankful. None of the kids are coming next Sunday to be like, wow, you did such an amazing job, Paula. You're the best. They don't say that. They just say, get out of my way. I got toys to play with and things to do. They don't know all the preparation that you did, and they're not, wow, super thankful about it. Too many people are serving with sadness, and they wonder why nothing's changing in their life. I can't imagine. Could you imagine if David took his lunch to his brothers with a sour attitude and complaining? I don't think he would have had a chance to meet his Goliath. He would have been so focused on himself, so inwardly focused, he wouldn't have taken up God's problems. He wouldn't have taken up the war with Goliath. Or could you imagine if Elisha, who was serving Elijah, had a negative, nasty attitude? I can't believe I'm still taking care of this old man. Why has he got me going over here doing this? And now I don't understand why he wants to make me do that. I don't think Elisha would have received the double portion that came to him when Elijah went up. Don't miss your blessing because you're sour. Matthew chapter 6, verse 3 says, but when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. So here's the key. God sees everything. He's keeping records. I believe he's got a book called the Book of Life, and he's writing down all the things that we do to serve others. There's going to come a day when we're going to stand before what's called the Bema seat of Christ. When you go in front of the Bema seat, it's not the judgment seat. Jesus is looking at your life to assign rewards. He's keeping track. He sees every single thing. And he knows how to reward you even when no one else does. Matthew says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Don't try to serve others so that you get glory or that you get honor. Serve others so that Jesus gets glory, that Jesus gets honor. Do your good deeds before all men, that they may see and glorify who? Your Father in heaven. Don't worry if you're not getting the credit. Don't get discouraged if people don't thank you. The scripture says that what you do in secret, God's going to reward in the open. God sees your sacrifice. He sees you buying supplies for the kids in your classroom and all of your students at school. He sees you taking care of that friend that's not well. He sees you getting up early to come and serve and set up the flags at the church. God knows how to thank you. He knows how to open the windows of heaven, because you can't be good to somebody without God being good back to you. When we serve people, we're ultimately serving God. This perspective gives us an eternal significance to our day-to-day acts of kindness. I'm not just doing this for somebody else. I'm not doing it for my boss. I'm not doing it for my wife. I'm not even doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for Jesus. We're going to make the first move. We love others because God first loved us. We forgive others first. We make the first move. We serve. We make the first move. we're going to be the kind of people that reorient our schedules, reorient our lives to make the first move in everything we do. I want to pray for you. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes? Jesus, I thank you now for your great love, that indeed you did die on the cross for every one of us because you love us. You did it freely. You gave your life. And I pray now that as we are followers of you, that our lives, we could find ways to serve others. We could find ways to be inconvenienced, things that cost us, things that others might be wondering, why did you do that? But we know it's for you, Jesus. We know you reward us. And maybe it's not something we see tangibly now, but we're going to receive it all when we get to heaven. In Jesus' mighty name, everybody together said, amen.